want to leave you better. I want my life to matter. I am afraid I have no purpose here. I watch the news on TV, abandon myself daily. I am afraid to let you see the real me. When it falls, when it falls, pouring on me, the rain it falls, when it falls, soaring the seeds of love and hope, love and hope. We don't have to stay stuck in the weeds. Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. World, you're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. I want to leave you better. I want my life to matter. I am afraid I have no purpose here. When it falls, when it falls, pouring on me, the rain it falls, when it falls, soaring the seeds of love and hope, love and hope. We don't have to stay stuck in the weeds. Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change? Have I the courage to change today? You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything. You're not alone in all this. You're not alone, I promise. Standing together, we can do anything.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little ditty. It really took me by surprise. I sort of bumped into it. It was the Ukrainian choir singing it. And the words were so exciting to me, to have the courage to change. It's so much what I wanted to talk about today, because this is the story. When we're talking about using happiness and adversity as the spiritual path, we have to change. We have to know that we not only have the courage to change, we have the power to change. It's completely in our hands, that aspect. And the great good fortune of having the energy and the knowledge, the information, having the connections that'll make it possible. So as I walk through this with you, now these are notes that I took in 1992. So I was really quite delighted to bump into them again. It's one of my favorite Dharma books, and it's by one of my favorite Dharma people. So before I get into talking about the book, I just wanted to mention a couple of things about this incredible past weekend, this time that I spent with Miri and Gisele at Zenia's house in Natal, which is the far northeast of Brazil. It was beautiful and wonderful to be close to the ocean and so forth. But what really thrilled me was the request, the teachings that were requested. They were both sides of the coin. On Thursday morning, Adatanya set up an event for me to speak to people who are working with her on her postdoctorate project, and the way she shaped it was the Dharma as we age. So that's right down my alley right now. The whole aging thing is something that I look at every day and try to sort of navigate. And then the weekend, Xenia's request was Tara Tames the Eight Fears, which I had written for children. And so we had the whole spectrum of attention from aging to childhood. And it was all about us. It was all rather remarkable. So I wanted to share a couple of thoughts about that as we go into these teachings. About aging, the way we have every opportunity to prepare for this interesting condition. Now, Shakyamuni Buddha, it is said in the legends about him that he was stimulated to leave his castle, his comfortable, easy, fabulous life, and in search of the solution to old age, sickness, and death. So all of these teachings that we've embodied, it's all about this. It's all about meeting this particular way of being in life, that it's something that we all have to face: old age, sickness, and death. And so knowing this, then all of his teachings were oriented in how to liberate ourselves from the suffering of these conditions that we definitely are all going to have to deal with. So in order to prepare, now we don't know when these things are going to hit us. You know, I certainly didn't think of myself as old age until all of a sudden I couldn't get into Brazil because I was too old to deal with the pandemic. You know, all of a sudden it was the old people were not, you know, if we went, we were quarantined and overwhelmingly taken care of in ways that we didn't want to be taken care of. And so it really came home to me at that moment that this body and this condition, that I was aging. But the thing is, because I've been immersed in these studies for over 40 years, actually, I could say my whole life, I've certainly been obsessed with the spiritual path, but specifically the Buddhist approach, Shakyamuni's approach, looking at what he had to say there, I recognized that all of our preliminary practices prepare us for these great transitional moments of old age, sickness, and death. Now, depending on who you're talking to and when you're listening to these great teachers, they will all, at some point or another, touch into the fact that we must prepare for death. And of course, we must. But, they don't say a lot about we must prepare for old age. And yes, there are preparations that can be done. And those of you who are taking care of older people, parents, if it's not aging you yourself, but you're taking care of older parents or people who are, have some kind of sickness that gives them a handicap. Some of my very dear friends are facing dementia and Alzheimer's. We can see the loss of their ability to concentrate and focus on day-to-day life, that they require care. So what prepares us for this is all of the teachings that Shakyamuni has given, all of the teachings that we have explored. Now, I've spoken many, many times eloquently about the prayer of motivation. This, how important it is. It is absolutely important, because when the mind starts to go, when the focus starts to go, when the body starts to go, that was the other big surprise for me, is not only was I being labeled old, but I started feeling old in my body. I would look in the mirror and go, wow, who are you? It's just, who's this old lady? And also just walking around, I don't have the same vigor that, I certainly have slowed down tremendously, but it's not a problem. It really, it's an observation, but it's not a problem. And the reason it's not a problem is because for the past 40 years, I have looked at this very carefully throughout all of my practices in preparation for the fact that this body is transient, it's impermanent, that everything around me is impermanent. My whole life situation is impermanent. All of my friends are impermanent. Everything is impermanent. And I have worked vigorously on this. So, but because of that, looking at the old lady in the mirror and receiving the sentence from the Brazilian authorities about being old and dealing with being old, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's just another day. So the preparation for aging is to truly absorb and penetrate, particularly the preliminary teachings. Someone asked me, there's a lot of interest about inner guides, and am I really talking to Tara and all of this? Through the practice, what actually occurred is that the mind chatter got quiet. The quieter the mind chatter became, the clearer it was for me to see the impulse from my heart. So that also, during the course of at a certain point, I did vigorous practice for years, because I was so fortunate. I had my own shrine room. I had my own house, actually. I had a husband up the hill that was, so I didn't have to worry about guys coming on to me. And, I was in the most favorable conditions to do practice. And I did it for years. I woke up in the morning. I had a set of prayers that I did while I made my bed. I had a set of prayers I did while I walked down the hill, et cetera, et cetera. So I engaged in practice vigorously for some years. Then there was a moment, and I had authentication in the scriptures that this was going to occur, but it sort of shocked me, where I no longer wanted to do these practices. And so it was a big shock, because I had spent, I would get up in the morning and that was it until lunchtime. I was totally focused on these practices before dawn, very often. So I went back to the teachings. Unfortunately, Lama Tenzin was no longer available to me, but it said that this happened. And what happened is that I was constantly praying. It wasn't about the prayers that I had learned, the offerings that I had learned, all of the different ways of approach to the Dharma that I had, engaged in over I had my shrine, I made my offerings, I did the water bowls. Every single day I did certain prayers. It wasn't about any of that, but it was about a sense of being constantly in communication with my inner guidance, so that whatever came every moment, that was the standard. That was the standard. And I know that occurred because of the consistent practice that I had done all those years, that it prepared me for that moment. So I'm mentioning this because you're on the right track. You're on the right track. And especially whatever you can do your practices. Don't worry about it. What you're seeking is the connection with your inner wisdom mind. That's there. That's there. It's obscured by habit. Habit is the thing, it's obscured by habit. So we can't see, there's an impulse that comes, a situation that comes. Oh, I can't get on the plane to Brazil. So what happens when something monumental, because in my life, that was a monumental situation. So what happens if you're not trained to say, okay, now what? What do I do now? What's my next move? In good spirit, if you allow yourself to collapse and freak out, then you're not going to see the tremendous opportunity in the moment. So this is all preparation for old age, sickness, and death. Everything that we discuss in the Dharma is preparing us for this. And all of our preliminary practices, all of our Tara dancing, all of our association with sources of refuge, all of this is preparing us for these monumental impacts, because it's truly monumental, the whole presentation of old age. So then you say, and the question arose, that the teachings that were being requested, it wasn't only about what do I do about old age, sickness and death, or about old age was the issue. But what about my family? What about my parents? What about my friends that I see suffering from various conditions? What can I do for them? Well, you can learn how to talk Dharma, and you can learn how to talk it on their level. This is like the biggest creative challenge you've got going, is to learn how to talk about the Dharma on the level of the person that you're discussing it with. So not with arrogance, I know something you don't know, not with arrogance, but with absolute conviction that the person in front of you has wisdom mind within them, that they are also Tara, and that your relationship with them can stimulate that, but you have to figure it out. It's like a fantastic opportunity puzzle. Those of you who like puzzles, whatever presents itself, whoever presents itself. So rather than despairing or freaking out, it's just another wonderful moment in your life, giving you the opportunity to manifest the wisdom and compassion that rests within you. So we start this study of this fabulous talk, this fabulous set of ideas that I've gleaned for you from Gyata Rinpoche. we start out with our preliminary practices. So I want us all, if we can, if you're able to, of course, Midi is going to be a little shocked because I forgot to tell her that I would like her to play the prayer of motivation and refuge and bodhicitta. And I invite you to stand up and dance if you know the dance. And if you don't know the dances, then sit and meditate on the words. Okay? Thank you so much, Midi. Sorry to drop that in your lap, but I realized I love to start my talk with movement.
Would you like to put together one
Yeah.
and another? Okay.
Yeah.
Namo Buddhaya, Until the heart of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the three jewels. I will attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. Até que eu atinja o coração iluminado, tomo refúgio nas três joias. Eu alcançarei a iluminação em benefício de todos os seres. Until the heart of enlightenment is reached, tomo refúgio nas três joias. I will attain enlightenment em benefício de todos os seres.
Thank you, Midi. Thank you, everyone, for indulging me in this way to start our practice with a little bit of movement. Okay, so first I would like to ask Midi to show some pictures of Gyatro Rinpoche. There are, according to a recent thing that I was reading, a Dharma book that I was reading, there are over 150 major texts on mind training in the Tibetan Buddhist pantheon. And this is one of them, using happiness and adversity as the spiritual path. And so I was very fortunate to encounter this fabulous being. Gyatro Rinpoche is a trickster. He loves making jokes, and his teachings are full of humor, and he's very strict in his Tibetan transmission. So I was thrilled to find this book. I don't know if it's still available. And here we go with the teaching. So Midi, you want to show the other pictures of Gyatro Rinpoche? Yeah. Okay. So while that's going on, we're going to start from the beginning, right? Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to start towards the end. The teachings, the Lojong teachings, the mind training teachings are outrageous. They're not easy to apprehend. They're not easy to understand, and they're not easy to put into practice. And at the end of this book, and I will come back to it as well with his quote, but I wanted to share this with you right from the beginning, is when you hear these things, this is not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey. It's straightforward. Sometimes I'll even say it's simple in the fact that one thing follows the other. You can follow it, but it's not easy. It's really, really difficult. And so in order to accomplish the goal of awakened mind, there he is. Look at that cute thing. He's so adorable. He's such a trickster. He made such good fun of Midi and I. We went to his monastery in upstate, all the way the border of California and Oregon, and danced the 8 precious offerings for him. And he made jokes and cracked up. It was so funny, so precious. Yes, but he says throughout this teaching, don't freak out and despair if you can't do this. That's okay. Start small, start with things that you can manage so that you can see it is doable. It is absolutely doable. Now, when we're talking about transforming happiness in adversity, we start, the book starts and our text starts with discussing that there are two truths that we are going to examine this. There is the relative truth, which means the way in which we engage with each other and with the world. Okay, I call it the dance of duality, or gravity and density, the way in which we inhabit these bodies and we react with the world as if everything was separate. That's relative truth, okay? And in the dream world, or in the world of light, sound, and vibration, or the world of our imagination, that also exists, this sense that we are in a body, or a disembodied body, a body of light, and we're engaged with a bunch of other bodies. In other words, there's this sense of dualism, relative truth. The other aspect of our capacity of consciousness is ultimate truth. Now, this is the way the Buddhists lay the thing out. In other words, the capacity of our mind to understand the infinite nature of reality, that we are infinitely interconnected with every atom of existence, and that through that interconnection, we see, we penetrate, wisdom is revealed, and the radiance of compassion is experienced. Infinite wisdom, infinite compassion, infinite openness, infinite space. So that's the ultimate mind. Therefore, the discussion here is that we approach this whole understanding of adversity and happiness. We are approaching it through these three, but we're using the two, the ultimate and relative truths, these two modes of perception. So there are different ways in which we can approach the confrontation our mind experiences when something really shitty happens, like the war in Ukraine. Now, if we don't want to make this personal, we can go there. But I invite you also, as I'm talking, think about the challenges in your life. Think about the situations in your life where you put up the hand and try to stop it, where you think, I can't deal with this, and there is an uprising of emotion. And because of this uprising of emotion, there is a display of activity. So that body, speech, and mind is fully involved in saying no, and saying it in such a way that causes more separation rather than unity. Because the job, the essence of our Dharma events and our Dharma effort, the essence of our effort is to open into the infinite nature that we are. And from that place then to interact with whatever presents itself in a loving and compassionate way, because it is our nature to do that. So this is what we're examining. Where is it where we don't do that? And how can we change that? How can we change it? Because most of us who have come to this path, who seek out the spiritual journey, just like Sia, this young rock star with her The Courage to Change song, is saying, I want to make a change in this world. I want to live to my capacity, but I don't know what that is. So we can answer from our perspective, from our Buddhist training, that we have the capacity to manifest wisdom and compassion in this world. We have the capacity to be so skillful and so powerful that we can bless and uplift every single person that we meet. And how do we know this? We know this because we have tremendous examples on this path. We have tremendous examples, and the most popular one that we can all relate to, no matter what lineage we are focused on, is His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Now, what happens with His Holiness? So anytime you see this guy, anytime he shows up, the first thing that happens is he laughs. And he walks onto the stage laughing, and he sits down laughing, and he laughs throughout his talk, even though here is a man who has been driven from his homeland under the threat of imprisonment, under the threat, watching his people die, every day interviewing his people who have been in prison for 25, 30, 40 years and tortured and murdered. And yet his radiance is not only loving compassion, but it's joy, absolute, unadulterated joy. And he, in his teachings, he has written a magnificent book with Desmond Tutu about the power of joy, and how important it is that no matter what's going on, that is how we present ourselves. This has everything to do with these teachings, everything to do. Because, okay, we have this crazy war going on. We can't deny that this war is crazy, and it is not something that we endorse. But on the other hand, we are going to meet this with courage, and we're going to meet this with wisdom. We're going to meet this with compassion, recognizing that whoever and whatever is engaged in this violent conflict, and all of those who are displaced by it, all of the refugees and so forth, and everyone, that this radical situation, we are going to do our best to keep our heart open, hold everyone in it, and radiate our loving compassion in whatever way we can, without freaking out, without ourself becoming part of the problem. Because that's what happens when you resist whatever is presented to you in the moment. So for this moment, I invite you, think of a situation in your life that is sort of freaking you out, a situation that is really bugging you. And especially with family. That's a lively pool of opportunity for freak out. But if you don't have one of those conditions going on, we can look to our neighbors. And if we don't have neighbors that are bugging us, we can look to somebody in the community or a situation in the community. Make this personal as I'm talking, as I'm sharing with you these various ways in which Gyatso Rinpoche expands on this teaching. Make it relevant to you. Make it relevant to your life. And be prepared to share something with us. Be prepared to share something with us about this. And of course, so conditions in the world are easy, to look at and go, well, that one freaks me out. So to use as an example as we progress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of this stuff, and then I will give my sort of take on it. And I encourage you, if you have paper and pen, to write down whatever inspires you, to write down. If you hear something, the Tibetans are very fond of what we call slogans. And there's nothing mysterious about these things. You can develop your own slogans, because according to their teachings, what we tell ourselves constantly throughout the day, and when we meet adversity, what we tell ourselves is what transforms the mind. This is what gives us the power to change, is the repetitive assertion of our highest capacity, of what we know to be true as a potential within us. Even if we are not displaying that potential, nonetheless, these slogans will keep reminding us, reorienting. Our job is to consistently and continually reorient ourselves, so that, yes, it's easy. This is where Gyatso Rinpoche repeats again and again, getting off the path, it's natural. Don't freak out about that. Simply realign yourself. You find yourself confused, you find yourself angry, you find yourself pushing people away. Realign yourself to your wisdom and compassion capacity, and use. So the reason I got into this, it's always so funny to watch my mind splay out, is write down, develop your own slogans. Now, these teachers, if I say something here, those of you who have engaged with me over the course of these teachings, I will send you these notes. So if you can't, if you need a reference, but while I'm talking, as it arises in you and you hear something, especially special words or special phrases, write them down so you can come back to this and let it support you. Okay, so here we go. Whenever one is challenged by the actions of others or by some life situation, if the mind is in the habit of dwelling on the negative aspects of the difficulty, then the experience will be stressful and full of suffering. So, starting right off the bat, if you look at a situation and you recognize, okay, here we go. The world is the pandemic. This is the perfect one for us to look at. Okay, the pandemic has occurred. We are all confined to our houses or whatever the conditions are. If we look at this and simply lament, oh, I can't meet with my Taurus circle, I can't dance personally, I can't hug and kiss all my friends, I can't go to the store without a mask on, there's a long list of what we can't do that and what is occurring that's not so pleasant. And yet, if we focus on that, then the mind itself becomes dull. This is what these trainings are not trying to make us be non-responsive or what they're trying to do is to see that every thought that we have affects us. And if we move towards unity, if we move towards open heart, if we move towards utilizing the moment, we are empowered by the moment. In order to be effective in this world, we have to be empowered. So we have to recognize where, okay, if I keep lamenting about a situation that has changed, then I'm not allowing myself to be empowered to see the opportunity inside the change. Every situation, I've heard this now for all my life. And for instance, my very dear friend, her son had just graduated from high school, ready to enter college, full scholarship to one of the best colleges. And the night before he was ready to go off on his journey, he went to the beach with some friends, did some kind of backflip, broke his neck, and ended up almost, I guess he was a quadriplegic at first. You can imagine how impact that was on the family. So he received all kinds of treatment, and there was this great sense of loss, et cetera, et cetera. A year later, when I visited with his mother, I was giving some teachings, and she had organized something or other, and he was there. And he had regained a little bit of use. He'd regained use of his hands, and up to his heart, from down to his heart, he was able to move the top part of his body. And he said to his mother reported this. I wasn't so close to the boy, but I was close to her. So she reported. He said, I know it's a terrible thing, and I'm very sorry that I engaged in this behavior, and I know I've disappointed you. But in some ways, it was a blessing for me, because I was so arrogant. I was so caught up in thinking that I was the best that there was, etc. I don't need to, but it really moved me because this is what we're talking about. He was able to take the situation and recognize the gift of the situation. So we take this situation of the pandemic and look at the gifts. There have been so many gifts inside of this thing. And yes, people have died, but people are dying all the time. People got sick, people are getting sick all the time. This is not new. None of this, the old age, sickness, and death is not new. How we approach it, that's, are we going to approach these situations and be empowered by them? Or are we going to approach these situations, feel ourselves victimized by these situations, and therefore disempowered by them? That's the choice that we're given with these teachings. Since almost every experience has elements of dissatisfaction, eventually everything that appears will lead to misery through the power of habitual thinking. The strength of the mind can never be underestimated. It is the single most powerful force in existence. So, check it out. Check it out. Look at all of the various things that are happening to you or that have happened to you, and look at how you are resisting them. And if you are, this is the key to your exhaustion, to your inability and incapacity to move forward in your spiritual journey. Now, I'm not saying this as any sense of judgment. Absolutely not. And I'm encouraging you not to get into the whole I'm, so bad trip, because that's useless. What we're trying to do is not be useless. What we're trying to do is not continually undermine ourselves with the power of our own mind. That's really what we are trying to do here. Not undermine ourselves. Then there's a good statement. Don't undermine yourself with the power of your own mind. Put that on your refrigerator, because it's up to you. You can look around at the world and see all of its flaws, or you can look around at the world and see all of its opportunities. And they're the same. They're the same. The conditions are the same. It's what you do with them. It's what you do with them. Okay. Suffering blamed on external circumstances causes one to act in hatred or revenge, fostering every kind of negative action and spreading the flames of suffering endlessly. Everywhere one looks, one sees enemies, particularly when it comes to some object of attraction or affection. The smallest condition can cause extreme agitation, irritation, and distress. Now let's take a look at let's unpack this one. Suffering blamed on external circumstances causes one to act in hatred or revenge. So let's take a look at old Mr. Putin over there, okay? So when we look at this guy, it's easy for us to demonize him. And yet, according to these teachings, here's another human being who has lost track of his essential nature, which is loving compassion. He's lost track. And so, because of this, he is reaching out, trying to find his way, trying to empower himself. But he's doing it at the sake of disempowering others. So when we examine the situation, rather than sending revenge, hatred, send your loving compassion to this man and see if that can disarm his ignorance, if that can disarm his behavior. Use the power of your mind to look at each situation. Now, another thing that really comes into play with all of this is because we're in this dualistic situation, we are engaged in action, reaction, action, reaction. We call this karma. Karma literally means action, And when we make action, there is a response. It's a responsive universe. So whatever is arising in our mind at this moment, we are responsible for having created these conditions. Don't freak out. Don't beat yourself up because you're so bad because you created a situation that went to war. What the hell? Just realize that you did somewhere create this situation. And because of that, here's the display. Now, what do you have choice? You can't change the past. You can't change what led you to this moment. I'll try to slow down for my Portuguese translators who are in the back room. You can't. What you can change is the way you approach it. That's what you can change. Because we've asked, I mean, one of my favorite karma stories is Sita Rinpoche, who I just adore. He's an incredible teacher. And our question was, should we find out what we did in the past to create this outrageous situation of pain and suffering for my family, for myself? Should I try to figure it out? And he said, what a waste of time. He said, that's like trying to find one of those sharp things in a pile of hay, which was his way of saying needle in the haystack, for those of you who speak English. So he said, it's hopeless. The conditions of the moment are because of our interconnectivity of all that exists. So it's not like one thing stands out to create the current circumstances. All of our engagements have brought us to this moment. All of our engagements have brought us to this moment. So we can't do anything about what we've done, but what we can do is decide what we're going to do with this moment. What are we going to do with this moment? And how are we going to move into the future from this moment, offering the world whatever wisdom we have gotten and whatever radiance of compassion that we have generated. That's our choice. He said, you can make a choice every moment to be the best that you can be. And don't judge yourself about what that is. Just do it. Just do it. Because maybe you can, if you look back, you can go, I could have done it better. I could have done better, but you couldn't. This is an important thing to understand, is when you are in the moment, you make decisions completely based on what you have gathered up to that moment. It's not like, then 3 years down the road, you turn around and go, yeah, I could have done that better. Well, maybe, but actually at that moment, you couldn't have done any better than what you did. Because according to all the forces that are coming to play within our body mind, we are doing the best that we can do and resolve that. That's another one of those statements that you put on your refrigerator. I am doing the best that I can do. I am determined to do the best that I can do. And then leave it at that. Don't belabor the whole point. Simply open to your own essential nature, meet it with whatever you've got the best you can, and engage. The karmic situation will take care of itself. As we increase in our capacity to live our prayers, not just to say our prayers, but to live our prayers moment by moment, being in prayer, in constant contact with the wisdom within, being in constant contact with the radiance that is our nature, we'll be fine. Whatever arises, we'll see, okay, here's karmic consequence. War is karmic consequence. This war is a karmic consequence, not just to the Ukrainians, not just to the Russians, but to the whole world, to all of us. We all created these conditions, and we are all continuing to create these conditions until we all learn to meet it. I mean, that was the other line that I really enjoyed in that song that we opened with of Sia, which is together. Together we change the world. But that's absolutely true, because moment by moment, here we are, all however many billion of us are living on this planet, we're determining, we're deciding What are we going to do with this incredible opportunity of consciousness arising in the dimension of duality? What are we going to do with it? Okay, onward. Let's see what else we have. Okay. So the smallest condition can cause extreme agitation, irritation, or distress. So wherever that is happening in your life, bring it into the path as much as you can. Bring it into the path as much as you can. This is known as appearances arising as enemies. That as the habit of reacting negatively over even incidental events increases, it becomes harder to realize the cause of the discomfort. Okay, so now this is a really important point that he's illustrating, is that if we have this sense of discomfort, somewhere in our body mind, we are resisting what life is presenting itself to us. And the more we resist, the more crazy we become around it, the more depressed. And a lot of this stuff, it gets locked in with so many, our cravings, our desires, our fears, our guilt. It gets locked in. If we don't examine our mind, this is where meditation and practice comes in, because what it does is it's causing us to examine the contents of our mind. So when we are dancing Tara, for instance, when we're dancing, the mind doesn't go away. It's still there, and it is still presenting itself, especially as we continue with our affirmations, we continue with our visualizations, we continue as much as possible. We are stimulating the deep mind to reveal whatever it is that's holding us back. If we can't see it, we can't do anything about it. We can't develop a strategy unless we discover, okay, every time I see someone who presents themselves with glasses, we can, this is just a silly example, but every time I see someone, something happens to me, and we can trace it back to an experience in our past. And we can determine that it's not the person with glasses that's freaking us out. It's the experience that we had when we were 5 or 10 or whatever it was. We need to be able to disarm those experiences, and they will naturally arise. They will present themselves as we engage in practice. This is the power of daily practice, because every time you say to your mind, I will attain enlightenment, whatever resists that is going to push against it. And if you relax, if you stay relaxed within your practice, it is going to reveal itself. It's going to reveal the place where your mind stops. And that is the effort that we need to make. Onward. In order to not be affected by hindrances, one must develop an attitude of good cheer in the face of adversity. The hindrances themselves may not disappear, but they will not arise as obstacles in following the spiritual path. Okay, so here's another really important point. We have determined, otherwise you would not be listening to me ranting, you wouldn't be here if you had not already decided that you want to wake up. You want to accomplish the spiritual path. You want to reveal your wisdom nature. You want to radiate your compassionate nature. You've already decided that. I'm not twisting your arm on this one. So since you've decided that, then you have to see what stops it. Where are we inhibited? Now, very often I'm asked by students and friends, okay, I've been doing practice for 20 years and I still get angry whenever I hear blah, 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 or whatever it is that causes you to freak out. And then we go into this big lament of I'm never going to be enlightened because I have all of these problems and I'm blah, 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 blah. Useless, absolutely useless. You have to take a look at that and go, I'm on the path. And every obstacle, every resistance, every issue that I have is illustrating to me how it works. It's showing me if I resist this and I create a whole negative atmosphere about it, then I am diminished by that. So if the goal is to accomplish my spiritual path, if it's to accomplish the wish, as you know, it's so succinctly put in our prayers, to manifest enlightened mind, knowing it's the greatest gift we can give the world. Are we doing that? If we are, then we have to really look at this stuff. We have to be able to lose our house, lose our sweetheart, lose our car, lose our money, lose whatever it is that we've lost, lose our idea that the world is not at war. If we are not capable of looking at that and saying, okay, obstacle, ooh, goody, an obstacle. What am I going to do with this obstacle? How am I going to meet it with wisdom and compassion? That's the question. Moment by moment, we should be asking to whatever arises. We walk past the television, we see somebody being really shitty to the other person. And instead of going, oh, I really hate people like that, we go, I see how difficult it is to be a loving human being. I see how difficult it is. And I send my loving compassion to everyone who reacts, who acts in that way towards anyone else. Okay, yes, I do get excited about this stuff. Sorry. Okay, here we go.
Prema,
Yes.
can you slow down a little bit?
Yes, this is the request from the back room.
Please, Prema.
Tá bom. Pardon. I'm so sorry. Yes, okay. Me desculpa, me desculpa. Okay, yeah, but of course I can, and also there's part of this that where it sits inside me is so powerful, it's so strong that I just want to wake everything up. I want to wake you up because I know you want to. So I'm seeking the exact word, the exact image that's going to allow you to take the next step in. Okay, so we develop an attitude of good cheer in the face of adversity. The hindrances themselves may not disappear, but they will not arise as obstacles in following the spiritual path. On the contrary, they will be opportunities capable of bringing forth great benefit. So now, the one that you could really work on, that's really easy to work on right now, is the pandemic. So really take a look at that. Take a look at the gifts that it has brought our world. Take a look at these situations. Change your attitude. Recognize the pointlessness of all the anxiety experienced through regarding challenging circumstances as negative. Okay, the key word there is pointless. The pointlessness of anxiety. So now we go back to what I started with this. Is this easy? No, it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy. So don't freak out if you can't manage it. According to what Gyatro Rinpoche says repeatedly is, do small things, see small things, small adversities, the neighbor next door that is constantly aggravating you. Try to spend some time remembering how whatever the situation is in their life that's causing them to be so aggravating, and really do your best to transform the situation into one that reminds you. The point is to let this all remind you to meet it with wisdom and compassion. No matter what is going on, meet it. So if it's someone who is disturbing you, try to think of all the people who are being disturbed in this world and all of the situations and all of the circumstances, and engage in the Tonglen practice. Engage in Tonglen. So we're going to come to that soon. Practice cultivating courage. Remind yourself, whatever kind of challenge arises, I shall confront it with courage. Okay, so you can write that down. Whatever kind of challenge arises, I shall confront it with courage. I will not fear. I will not fear it. I will not befriend it. I will not react. I will just allow things to be. This is not a simple thing to do. Now, this is Gyatso Rinpoche straight from the horse's mouth. This is not a simple thing to do, but by constant practice, eventually the power of the mind develops and old habits are put to rest. So you can have confidence in this. Now, one of the most powerful moments of my Dharma association was meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Those of you who've been with me for a while have heard me tell this story many times because it was so impressive. Anatta asked him, how do you do it? How do you keep talking about the Chinese as my Chinese brothers and sisters? How can you do that? And His Holiness laughed and said, practice. And that was so powerful for me to recognize that whatever, it's a total setup for him. And yet he doesn't waver. He doesn't waver in his efforts to bring about well-being, in his efforts to really see whoever it is that was enabling the conditions in his beloved homeland, that they too were human beings struggling to awaken. And he was not going to disparage them. He was going to do everything he could to keep loving them. Another story that always really moved me was I've heard this story from a couple of different places in different ways, but especially Garchen Rinpoche, because he was in prison for 25 years and watched his friends dying, being tortured, and so forth and so on. And he was asked, or somehow the subject came up, and he said the thing that frightened him the most was losing compassion, if he lost compassion for his captors. That frightened him more than anything, to lose compassion. That's right down the alley with these teachings. And 25 years later, he pops out, and now he's being treated like a demigod. His teachings, his transmission, and so forth. He never lost his faith. He never lost this capacity to love the people who were torturing and killing all around him. Okay. The waste of aversion to adversity. Now, this is something for you to examine. So part of what occurred in my personal training, part of what I realized now from my old age looking back, I realized when I first started this sort of exploration of teachings with Lama Tenzin, I was totally not into it. It just didn't make any sense to me. This whole idea of, adversity as the path. Are you kidding me? It's like pain. Yeah, I couldn't relate. But I really had the greatest respect for Lama Tenzin. And it just so happened that, I was able to, for 10 years, I saw him once a week. I told him just how I felt about it all. So, but so the reason I'm saying that is that over the course of my association with the Dharma, it slowly started to unravel for me. So it started to reveal itself so that I could see deeper into what was being offered, into what was being, because at first, I was just a kid. I was a kid and I wanted to swim and, and, and screw with my sweetheart and have fun. And, it was like, this whole adversity thing just didn't make sense. But over the course of 10 years, it started to make sense. And I realized, and as I continued to study and practice, it reveals itself. And so what I can say to you is the practice reveals itself. Yes, the sources of refuge are really helpful. Having a Tara on your side, really helpful. Having all of these teachings, we have multiple Dharma books, and you can find wonderful teachings available that weren't even available when I started this study. There are great lineage masters who are giving teachings. So we have all of these opportunities. We have this incredible set of conditions. So but the practice will help us to see through it all. So the practice will reveal itself. That's what it kept telling me. I kept hearing that. It's self-revelatory. The practice itself will reveal its truth to you. It will open. It's all inside of you. So the practice stimulates what's already inside of you. Okay, so if a problem can be corrected, there's no need to be worried. And if it can't, there's no benefit in making yourself sick around it. So that's a really important little piece there, is when we make this decision, when we see it, okay, anxiety and worrying doesn't do anything for us. It's simply, we lose energy that way. So reorienting ourselves. So we want to be really, this is something that you need to examine. Now, Shakyamuni Buddha said it right from the beginning. Don't take anything that I'm saying for truth. Test it out. It's only going to be worth anything to you if you test it yourself. It's not just if you take it because I said it and you take it on faith, it's not going to really help you. You can entertain what I'm saying. You can use it as a stimulus, but really look deeply into your own life to see if it works for you. Okay, how are we doing here, time-wise? All right. Yes, I'm getting carried away here. But I was expecting that we were not going to get this done completely. I will continue next month. But anyway, if one does not react with anxiety due to the strength of your mind, it is easy to handle even great challenges. Okay? So this is the carrot, right? This is the one that says, look, if you really do this, if you really engage, then it doesn't matter what goes on, what happens in your life. Old age, sickness, death, for yourself and the people around you and the ones that you care about. All of this is going to happen. All of this, how are you going to meet it? How are you going to meet it? If you meet it with anxiety, then the strength of your mind is diminished. If you meet it as a wonderful challenge, there again, if you react with anxiety, you can become oppressed with overwhelming misery in the face of even minor problems. If the mind is engrossed in the miserable aspects of a situation, you become unable to develop any sense of courage. Analyze the situation carefully and do what you can to give rise to immeasurable compassion. If you are practicing Tara, consistently visualize yourself as Tara. View the situation as an expression of primordial awareness. Now this is, he's sort of poking his nose over into not duality, but not relative truth, but ultimate truth. We're going to skip over that for the moment. Develop a sense of good cheer in the face of adversity. Adversity is an aid on the spiritual path. It is an opportunity to train the mind and develop positive impressions or virtue in the mind. It helps to illustrate that the nature of conditioned existence is suffering and the unfailing truth of the law of cause and effect. The nature of conditioned existence. Okay, so this is something that we examine when we're working with the four thoughts that turn the mind. The fourth thought is that all places, friends, joys, and possessions in this cycle of existence continually torment us because of the three kinds of suffering. The three kinds of suffering. So the three kinds of suffering: not getting what we want, getting what we want and losing it, and then the underlying dissatisfaction of moment by moment, what we have is not good enough. So if we don't examine these things, if we don't really come to terms with them in an enlightened way, we are going to continue to suffer. And that's what conditioned existence is. That's what we're discussing about conditioned existence, is the conditioned way of meeting the world with resistance. We learn methods, we learn practices, and we apply them to each circumstance. So, for instance, in order to practice the 6 perfections, one must consider how each perfection is developed in dependence upon object, circumstance, and application. Okay, so in other words, in order to manifest awakened mind, we need potency. We can't be namby-pamby lolly-las. We need to be powerful because it takes courage to stand in the face of everything that's going on and meet it with wisdom and compassion. It takes courage. It takes strength. We have to develop that. We have to seek out ways that we can develop our capacity. Okay, so for instance, if there wasn't an opportunity to practice generosity, we would not be able to develop the stimulus that occurs in the body-mind by actions of generosity. Now, one of the things that our neuroscientists discovered is that whenever we engage in activities that bring benefit to others, that not only is the capacity of others increased, in other words, the happiness quotient, they were studying the happiness quotient, not only is the well-being of others increased, but the well-being of the one who extends themselves in generosity also increases. Their capacity for joy increases. This is merit. Now we can use the merit in different ways. We are continually invited in these practices to use the merit to strengthen our capacity to give more, to strengthen our capacity to penetrate the depths of these teachings. Because I can say the same thing over and over again. I can study the same thing, but until I hit the mark with my own body-mind and it opens in front of me and I see it, I cannot change it. So you are invited to do that, to really keep looking, and see how conditioned existence limits us. So let's look at the 6 perfections. Generosity, skillful means without, and so what is indicating here is we're here on this planet and we're given all of these opportunities to manifest these qualities. And the only way we can gather the strength and the courage and the capacity is by meeting these challenges. Without these challenges, there's no way we can strengthen our capacity. Now, this was something that it took me a long time to understand because, I kept thinking, as I'm sure you have also entertained, the idea that I want to get rid of negative situations. I don't want war in the world. I don't want pandemics. I don't want sickness. I don't want old age. I don't want death. I don't want all of this stuff. But according to these teachings, all this stuff is our big opportunity to train the mind. So even though here are people in front of us suffering, but their suffering is providing us with the opportunity to meet it with compassion. And every time we do that, our potency is increased. This is the power of merit, our potency, which makes us more capable of being skillful. When we talk about skillful means, it means the capacity to meet every moment ethically, the capacity to meet every moment considering the needs of others, not just our own, but considering the needs of others. That's what skillful means. Skillful means is this understanding that when we move towards unity, our capacity is increased. When we move towards separation, it's diminished. Patience. Here's one that drives many people bonkers. The idea that patience is part of the spiritual path. But in fact, the 6 perfections are all pointing out to us, this is opportunity. The 6 perfections, this is our opportunity. I mean, dependence upon object, circumstance, and application. So here's our big opportunity. We're stuck in traffic and we're late to get to work, or we're late to get to wherever the things we think we have to go. This is our big opportunity. So we have a circumstance, we have an object, which is our car and everybody else's car. Now, how are we going to apply our awareness in this situation? Are we going to start cursing at the people around us? Are we going to curse the situation? Are we going to allow ourselves to drop into negativity? Or are we going to say, okay, I can't do anything. I can't drive anywhere. So let me think about the people in all the different cars and let me send them my loving compassion and let me take away their frustration. Let me breathe out my radiance and my joy and my Dharma understanding. Let me breathe in their frustration and transform it into wisdom and compassion. Patience. So be happy every time. This is what we're being invited to do. This is a good one. This is a good place to start your training. Every time you find yourself being impatient, look at it according to these teachings. Think, okay, here's my big opportunity. Here is my opportunity to practice patience. And if I can practice patience, I know that my capacity for awakened mind is increased. I know it's increased. This is the circumstance of this is my big opportunity to gather merit. Perseverance. Okay, so here we are. The spiritual path is right in front of us, and some big boulder sort of drops in. Oh my God! It looks like I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my caretaker. Yeah, I could go there. I lost my caretaker. So that actually occurred. And so where was I going to go with that? So would I persevere in seeing the situation as beneficial to me, that I could bring about a state of well-being within the situation? Or was I going to whine and moan and complain about the fact that this big obstacle appeared? If training, remember this is called lojong, training the mind. So if we're training the mind, what we're training it to do is take a step back. Okay, meditative absorption. This is, again, opening the mind into its capacity to relax in the face of adversity, because we start clamping down around it. We clamp down around the situation, and then we can't see where our inner resistance is and how can we transform it. And of course, the sixth perfection is penetrating insight, which naturally arises as we apply these various trainings. Yes, Miri is reminding me to drink. Okay, excuse me, everybody. Okay, I think we need to take a break. Yeah, we need to take a break. So 5 minutes. We don't need much, but I do want you to stand up and move around and breathe. And I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okie dokie. So before we go any further, I want to ask for questions or comments about these teachings. So wave your hand if you're willing to share with us. Otherwise, I might just have to call on somebody because I want to hear another voice besides my own. So please share something with me. Okay, let's see. Teresa, wonderful. Please unmute and let me see if we can get you to be spotlighted.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, thank you for the teaching. I find when I think about my own process with adversity and challenge that like I'll be caught, like I'll be triggered or I'll be caught, and then I feel like I try to label what's happening, but sometimes, and I feel like I told myself that that's a necessary part to say, this is anxiety or this is worry, like clearly label what it is. But sometimes it's a whole slew of different emotions that I then feel not confident that I can even label what's happening. And then I'm like, okay, so is it just best to not worry about the label and just move through it as best as I can? So I find that that's where I can get stuck there. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Right. It's not always a straightforward picture that we get in this journey. And the resistances that we have developed are going to continue to present themselves in different ways. So the important thing is not to panic, not to freak out, not to judge yourself, but to continue to look and breathe, open the mind up, right? If the labeling is proving distracting, just open and view, watch whatever is arising and passing without any commentary, but also without any activity. In other words, what you're doing is you're taking a step back from habitual activity and with aversion, because what often happens is we push away somehow. So just by diminishing that will already increase your capacity. So what the main thing I would say is really develop the healing breaths. I call them the 9 healing breaths, but you can do as many of the breaths as you want, as many as it takes. You know, the main thing is to address the tension in your body and to give the mind a command without any judgment. Give the mind and the emotions a command to relax without any judgment, and then just let yourself be as open as possible. That will help that particular situation.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. Oh, goody, goody. I like being helpful. Okay. Who else has a comment or a question? Please raise your hand. Okay, let's see. Celia. Oh, yes, Celia Lotus. Okay. And let's see if our dear spotlighter can spotlight you so I can see you. Okay, there you are. Hi.
Hey, I feel like my work is constant adversity in terms of I work in child protection. So, and I feel like in a way, like this could be a wonderful opportunity to develop. It's really hard to stay positive when you're dealing with lots of trauma and lots of anxiety from people every day. And also as much as it's an opportunity, and I don't want to fall into the whinge space, there's a lot of challenge in the way that as a worker, we are not being supported well. So there's an expectation to do more than we can do possibly, and then to therefore not do the best that can be done with keeping kids with their families. So I guess my question is, I can see it as an opportunity, and I also have this difficulty in how do I stay positive when I'm working with such negative experiences every day.
Right. Okay, there are two practices that I recommend for you. First of all, let me say how much I admire your ability to do this. It's a job that it is very difficult. I can only imagine how painful this on an ongoing basis must be. You're meeting people at their most frantic. And so you're on the front lines for sure. And this is a tremendous opportunity for practice. It's a tremendous opportunity. So the two practices that I recommend are Vajrasattva and Tonglen. And I recommend that you do them not in your workplace always. Eventually you will be able to do it, but away from your workplace. So you strengthen yourself. So when you meet, when you're within the workplace, you're simply present. You have to be able to just be present. And that's hard. I can imagine that would be very difficult. But on the other hand, here's your big opportunity to train, because when you, all right, you've got somebody sitting in front of you and they're dissembling, they're falling apart. You have to keep present and without judgment. You have to keep your heart open. You have to keep sending them loving compassion, even though they're not hearing what you're saying. They're so freaked out. They don't know, and no matter what you say, they're providing resistance. I can only imagine the conditions that you have to deal with. And yet you, in your training, this is the other one, is the 9 healing breaths. We can't underestimate the power of these practices. So there is a recording that I did many, many years ago with a friend of mine called Bava. I think I've recommended this to you, the Vajrasattva practice with Bava. Did you download that material?
I don't remember that particular, I don't think I have with that. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right, because we can, I mean, we'll persist until you do this, because it's really helpful. If you every night or whenever you are driving away from your work, play this meditation and this music and the mantra, because it's extremely helpful in just letting go of whatever arises during the day. You need to let go of it every time you leave your workspace. Just really give yourself the space to do that. You can do it while you're lying in bed. You can, it doesn't, the conditions don't matter, but do it, because it'll help you to just let go. That's, you're in training. So it's expected for you to want to resist some of this stuff. It's expected for you to want to be judgmental. And then the situation with your, with whoever your bosses are, or whoever is putting pressure on you to accomplish, again, you're going to have to see them and keep an open space about them. Keep sending them loving compassion, knowing that wherever this is coming from, wherever their pressure, their thing is coming from, that they are also human beings trying to figure it out. But don't take it seriously. I remember when I was growing up, my father had this thing about women. So from a very early age, he would tell me, because I was a woman, I was stupid. And, and I was like, I'd go to school and I was in advanced classes and, so I would think, as my father would say to them, I'm not stupid. So there's something wrong with you. I'm so sorry that you can't love me. And as you know, the whole relationship was very fraught with difficulty. But at a certain point, I realized he just didn't have the capacity. He didn't, but I myself never needed to take it in. I just didn't take it in. So you don't need to take it in. Yes, let whatever distortion they've got going, whatever difficulty they've got going, you can have compassion for them, but don't self-judge, and just keep doing your best. What can happen? You lose your job? Oh, yeah. Oh, too bad. It's like, just do your best and know that you really are making a difference. Just being willing to sit there and deal with these situations is making a really big difference in the life of these people. And the radiance of your loving compassion is making a big difference, even though they don't know what's going on. And their mind is caught up in whatever the details of their frustration is. Nonetheless, you can still send your loving compassion to them.
Prema, is that the meditation that we did during the previous workshop with Vajrasattva, with the singing?
No, the one we did in the previous workshop, you mean this, the weekend in Natal, that was the 4 powers. And I was going to end this session with that. So that's also available. I didn't realize that the music wasn't available. So I'm working it out with Mei Chen to get it up online. But in the meantime, if you're interested in the 4 powers practice, that I can send it to you as an email and you can just pay it as a donation like that. But no, the one I'm talking about, I think about 3 sessions. There was a Zoom session that I ended with the practice of bhava. Oh, it was when I was teaching I was in California. That was it. I was teaching Tara number 20 and Vajrasattva. And I ended with the practice of bhava. It's just, there's the way he recorded the mantra is there's so much space, because what you need, I mean, I can just imagine you going home and I bet you're tight. I mean, your body is tight, your mind is tight, every part, because you're dealt with so much sensory overload. So this piece of music is extremely expansive. If you don't want to do this piece of music, you just get some music that's very expansive, that you're not focusing, you're opening. Now the value of the Vajrasattva piece with bhava is that I also recorded the meditation. And very often with the Vajrasattva practice, it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy. The mind just goes all over the place. So the meditation keeps bringing you back to this letting go, because that's really what you need to do. You just need to let go of your tension, let go of all of your thoughts, let go of everybody, let go of it, all of it, and feel the radiant light pouring through you and into the world, and then send your light that way, and see, whenever there's whatever presents itself in front of you, of course, we're a part of it. We're a part of all of this that's happening. So trying to bring some light and blessing into that is a challenge for you, but it's wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I put the link to the music in the chat, Celia.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, it's there.
Thank you. All right. Tara team Tara. Fantastic. Okay, kiddos. Anyone else have something that they want to say? Anyone else willing to share?
Priya has her hand.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Cute little golden hand.
No,
All
I was
right.
thanking Mei Chen for putting that in the chat. And thank you all for making this happen. So wonderful to see you. Thank you, Prema.
Wonderful to see you, Priya. Yep. Fantastic. Wow, we're so lucky we get to do this. I can't believe it. So precious. Okay, anyone else? Anything else?
Sherry.
Oh, goody, goody. Sherry. Goodness gracious, haven't seen you in a while, girl. How's it going?
Well, I listening to oh my gosh, our previous Tara there talking about her work in such a heavy duty environment brought me back to how much for 3 decades, in the ER, balancing and doing so much and keeping it together, and how difficult that was. And of course, finding the path with Tara was what saved my life, really. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about is retirement isn't that easy either. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe how every minute is filled up, and I have Zoom classes, and listening to friends' hearts and carrying as a good listening friend, and then babysitting these twin 20-month-olds. I have to tell you that my humor is playing peekaboo, and I don't know where it goes. And so I'm very happy to have heard about the laughter today, because that brought this up to mind for me. But I mean, I can only try. And I made a contract with myself with the babies that on these days, I will not try to do anything. And if I do accomplish anything at all, making dog food, okay, great day, and it's, but still what happens is I'll be sitting down last week to a Zoom, and very excited about it. And the girls have been fed breakfast. They've been played with one-to-one. So now it's time for my Zoom. And I sit down, I'm getting into it, and I'm hearing everything I want to hear. And I'm very excited about the messages. And then the little one comes up, ready book. And she won't stop. It's a mantra, ready book. And I'm telling myself, okay, I'm already getting like, and I'm saying to her, you need to wait until my Zoom is over. I'm only requiring 1 hour of your day of 9 hours. And I'm trying to talk to a 20-month-old and bargain, right? And then of course it's not happening. Her mantra never stopped. It just got higher and higher. Ready book. And until I just slammed my computer shut, and I sat on the couch, and I turned into a rock sculpture. I held onto my knees. My face was so grim, and I said, I have become a grouchy old woman. What happened to this person? Where did she go? She's gone. And I sat there gripping my knees, trying not to yell or come unglued. And I said, it's only a kid. What? It's not life and death. And I couldn't find humor. I was just losing it. All I could do was breathe. And all of a sudden, I started laughing so hard, seeing myself trying to negotiate with 20-month-olds. It can't happen. And as soon as they go home, the dog stares at me and wants to go out and get exercised. And I'm like losing my mind over everybody pulling. And so I said, no more Zooms, no more anybody. Don't answer the phone. Just aversion to everything, to living. I don't want to see anybody. Please. And anyway, this talk today, being with my Tara sisters online, has calmed me and reminded me, find the humor. Find the breath. Look at yourself. The things that you spoke about today are everything. And here I am telling myself, well, it's not important. It's just, I'm just babysitting. This isn't important. You know, it's not like life and death in the ER or someone dying or Ukraine, and falling into that trap, you know, of my frustration and my anxiety isn't as good as others' anxiety and frustration. This is a crazy circle. And if it wasn't for these practices, oh my God, I think I might be, you know, maybe in jail. I don't know, somewhere. Anyway, I appreciate so much these reminders of this practice.
Sure. Oh my God. Oh my God. Well done. Yeah. Wow. What a fabulous opportunity. Yeah. Oh, of course, this is it. You know, this is what life is presenting you. And, you know, you have so much capacity as it is. And I'm so glad that you had the breakthrough with just, I mean, just laugh about it. I mean, that's all you can do. And remind yourself, you know, we make ourselves so important. And it's not about that. It's not about that. As soon as you recognize that you're not going to get around the 20-year-old, I mean, the 20-month-year-old, you're not going to get around her. Okay, surrender. Find, you know, it's like, yeah, I mean, the inspiration is everywhere. It's everywhere. But the power of the practice is in that moment. It's in that moment. So even though you approached it with resistance at first, even though you entered into the field of aggression following the resistance, right? Nonetheless, you were able to get on the other side of it with your laughter. And that's fantastic. That is exactly the point of all of this, is it's not easy. It's not easy what we're calling upon our mind, our body mind to do. It is not easy. When all of these forces, just like Teresa was saying, when all of these forces are coming together and the mind is just, you know, it's all kinds of stuff is going on there. But when you finally see it, because you're looking, so when you finally saw it, you were able to release it. And it does, I can tell you this much, it does get easier. It does get easier. What happens is that when the circumstance that normally causes impact, when it arises, you'll meet it with equanimity. The resistance won't even arise. The attachment to whatever was going on in the computer, there was an attachment there. I mean, that's all it was, is there was an attachment. Whatever was going on in the computer, you were attached to it. As soon as you recognize it's just an attachment, I'm the one who's holding on. I can open my hands and let go of it. There's satisfaction everywhere I look, and I'm going to attach myself to the satisfaction inside the computer? Really? When here I've got this 20-year-old, 20-month-old, you know, I mean, you're looking at it. So, and it starts there. It starts there. You see, okay, here I can see all the pieces. So the next time that frustration arises, you might catch it sooner. You might catch it soon enough to say, this is just attachment, because really that's all it is. This is attachment. I want things a certain way. Well, forget it. You know, this whole concept of retirement is ridiculous. You know, for our gang, it's really ridiculous. I mean, there's no way, because we're so fully engaged. We're fully engaged. And, you know, you as the mama and the grandma and the blah, 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 and the house and the dog and the sea, you're, yeah, well, or, and then,
I so love you. I just love you. I think the phone calls, it's always that. It's it's trying to keep it all together. And as it's rising in the body, it just rises and rises. And then it's like, uh-oh, wait, I have to start looking all over. Where did that humor go? I know and there's a laugh somewhere, but I can't see it. And, so anyway, thank you. And you're right. This is one example, and there's many, and they've all been arising. So looking at, that impatience and that inability to just let this moment be as it is, and let go, just let go, because I made a contract. And so, anyway, it still comes up, and I'll do my best, and I'll try not to hurt anybody and, or cause damage somewhere. And being a statue is better than that. So I can, I'm finding my way. Bless you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Whew, okay, so Ann Wilder, hi.
Hello, Prema. It's so good to be with you and be with all the Taras here today. I too have felt the settling of connection. It's like, oh, wow. It's just been really grounding to be here in this moment in time with you, Prema, and with everyone. So thank you. Thank you for that energetic link, that amazing strength and capacity that's here with all of us. So thank you. I'm wondering if you have any wisdom to share on like weathering big change, like when the obstacles or just the shift is like huge, like tsunami. The kid's dad and I are orchestrating a cross-country move. My house sold in Texas, and he's coming up here, and we've found a house we're buying together, and so I'm making decisions to stay here for a while and to reconnect with him in different ways, but good ways. And so, because we have stayed connected all these years cooperatively with the kids and shared residences, but just tons of like just big change, big feels like huge waves. So I was just wondering if, the day-to-day things, and of course, staying grounded in the breath and being mindful of what arises, all of that with practices, of course, but when it feels like it's flooding, like really flooding, because the change is swift and vast. Do you have any wisdom to share on that?
There really isn't any difference to, well, what you're talking about. I mean, it's the same as it was for Teresa, as it was for Celia, as it was for Sherry. It's the same story, Mumtaz. It's all about the mind trying to resist, and rather than opening and just getting bigger, you're being invited to increase your capacity, and part of you resents that. Part of you feels like the universe owes you more. But the situation is to see that this challenge is your big opportunity. How you meet this challenge is your big opportunity. So you have these, they're the same practices. These practices that I'm talking about, the Vajrasattva. However you do Vajrasattva, but particularly with Bhava, at the end of the day, let it all go. Practice letting it all go. The Tonglen, the seeing everybody's frustration and taking it into yourself, transforming it into wisdom, radiating your loving compassion out, remembering that you are Tara and you have this capacity to do this. You have the capacity to take the suffering of the world and transform it. And then finally, the capacity to open into the infinite spaciousness that you are, doing we call it the 9 healing breaths, but basically we're going to the place where we simply let go and experience the spaciousness, experience that everything is vast and interconnected, rising and passing, and without any resistance. Those those practices are, they're your tools. That's your main toolbox. Of course, the other one is the preliminary practices, to remembering why you're here. It's not you're not here to buy a big house. You're not here to take care of your children. You're not here to do the thing with your mate. You're here to manifest enlightened mind for the sake of all beings. That's why you're here. So if this whole situation is feeding that, hallelujah. But it's up to you to take that opportunity with the situation. You could see it as an overwhelming situation, a disturbing situation. You could see it that way. But what we're being encouraged by these teachings is don't see it that way. See that, wow, here's your big opportunity. You were sort of lubbing along for a while, and now all of a sudden, boom, here's your big chance. So are you going to take it? Are you going to take it and allow it to increase your wisdom and compassion? Or are you going to whine and complain? You can do as much whining and complaining as you want, but it's useless. That's if you want a really quick way to lose your merit, to lose your energy, to lose your stability, whine and complain. I mean, that is the truth of the matter. So, you've got to take yourself in hand and don't go there.
Okay.
Good to see you, Mumtaz. It's really good to see you. And I'm happy that you have this. So you're in Pennsylvania, right?
Still in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Still
Yeah.
working. And yeah, same.
So if all goes well, I'm going to be up in Woodstock and also in Massachusetts. So see if you can come and, spend some time. It'd be nice to see you.
Oh, I'd love to. Fingers crossed. I'll get there.
Okay. All right, sweetie. Thanks for coming on. All right. Let's see. How are we doing? Oh my goodness. The time just slips right past. Anyone else? Oh, Malia. Oh, I love you so much, Malia. Okay. Go ahead. Unmute yourself, sweetie.
I have two, as I'm a little older to you, Prema. So,
Yeah,
so
it's true.
I've gotten to the, that peak, and now it's starting to go down to, the disintegration of the body. And I guess my issue is controlling the speed at which I'm going down. So that's kind of my issue, because the incline gets steeper as you get closer to the bottom. It's kind of like, ooh, what's happening? So I guess my issue, and I just want to share with Sherry, she was so wonderful to do the White Tara mantra recording of it. And toward the end of it, her darling little ones, the girls, were saying, I want apple. I want apple. So Sherry, that's on the recording. And it was like, so that mantra takes over from the other mantra of Felicity's White Tara. So it's okay, Sherry. What it prompted in me was like, oh, those girls are really learning their language. And apple, and being able to take care of themselves now by telling their adult person, their caregiver, that they are now in control. They're getting in control of their environment, Sherry. So it's like, apple, it's very satisfying. So who's my care? I want apple. Apple, I want apple. So it's like, oh, it's they're becoming language learners. So it's like, it's a little frustrating, but it was like when I stepped back and realized that I had gone through the whole mantra, and this was the finale of the mantra of Felicity's White Tara. I said, okay, woman, it's just really nice that you can step back and not get frustrated at the little ones or at Sherry, because she'd done this wonderful gift. So I do have Felicity's White Tara just on my iPhone, so I can take it wherever, wake up to it, go to sleep to it, nap to it. But I think from what I'm finding difficulty with this transition is acknowledging that I need the help. I need helpers.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm-
perfect. I'm not
I'm
all
sure.
capable.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that that is a big piece of aging. And I know for myself that where, living up in Canayo, where I used to, mow the lawn and do the weed whacking and, 100% and drive on the road. And it was like, I don't have the capacity. So I absolutely rely on caretakers. I can't do it without caretakers. And with caretakers, varying degrees of commitment and competency. It's tricky. It's a whole other ball game for me, but there it is. Whatever is presented before us, that's our big opportunity. So, as the body ages, I've got, can't walk very far. I don't have the breath. My back hurt. I can long list of aging complaints for sure. So I'd really understand. And like you say, you're a bit further down. I thought, oh my God, hitting 70 was such a huge shock. What is it going to be like if I make it to 80? I can't believe it, because when I look at my friends and I see, wow, that's a big change. But here it is. It's all our opportunity. It's just like the Tibetans say, death is the biggest opportunity we've got. Death is the biggest opportunity we've got. So we prepare for it. Okay. So that means all of our incapacities, all of our challenges, everything that arises is our opportunity to prepare for death. So here it is. You don't know how much longer you're going to live. This is the thing. The body deteriorates, but it also hangs on. I mean, I watched my mother who had Alzheimer's, and she went crazier and crazier and crazier. I mean, at a certain point, she didn't recognize anybody. Life was just insane for her, but her body hung on. Her body just kept on going, until it didn't. So, I figured that's the same way it's going to be for us, so prepare for that. Recognize that this is what's going on. And that's what this is the gift. This is the gift that life is giving us, that we get to age. I remember when I was in my 20s and early 30s at the Dharma Center, there was this guy named Richard. He was part of the Maui family, but he was very devoted to Lama Tenzin. And one day he said to me, everybody has this great opportunity to experience death. He said, but I get to experience old age, and I'll tell you, it's not easy. And I was like 30 and I didn't think anything of it. But Richard's mom, he's appeared to me a few times as I journey into this aging trip and realize, yeah, this is our big opportunity. Not everybody gets to experience it, but we do. And so what is the value of it? Well, we let go of this body, and yet we still, you have the capacity now to provide others with the source of merit. By serving you, they can increase their own merit. By serving you in the most gracious and generous way possible, you are giving them a big opportunity. So rather than see it as you're taking something from everybody in order to the capacity of your old age, your aging, you see it as an opportunity. I was asked to teach a group of disabled women in Phoenix one year. Parvati and her mother, Amina, put this together, right? And one of the women was in one of these wheelchairs that is motorized. She could barely move. And I was giving the teaching about the food practice, but I extended it out and said, whenever somebody does something for us, like that, we are providing them with the opportunity to increase merit. And also, because of the contact, we can use them on our spiritual aspirations. So when we do Tonglen, we think about them. When we do White Tara, we think about them. And so in that way, their presence in our life is giving us the opportunity to imagine that they're coming with us on our spiritual journey. Well, this woman was so amazingly affected by that teaching, because she said, since I was a child, all my life, I've had people taking care of me, but I never thought that I could take them with me on my spiritual journey. That whatever they were giving to me, they were giving to me as Tara. And that was increasing their merit and their capacity to awaken in a spiritual way. So I often remember that woman when I'm having my own issues.
And further, I guess, Prema, another aspect of that is seeing my mother, who's going to be 107 this year, and the changes that she's going through, but also seeing how, when I'm there, of course, but in our very frequent telephone conversations, my brother and sisters taking care of mother. So seeing how they are having to deal with their own personal issues and not be putting themselves in a box and having expectations of mother that reflect what their expectations of themselves are, but rather dealing with them, with mother as mother, someone who's 107, not 68 or even 78, but someone who's 107. I mean, it is, she doesn't have Alzheimer's and she's pretty physically fit for someone 107, but still being, kind of the supervisor of their care for mother. So it's just like, so yeah, that whole interaction of caregivers and the person who's receiving the care. Yeah.
Yep. Big opportunities there. Really big opportunities.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I turned to Tara. My most recent prayer to Tara is, please send me a house cleaner.
Well done. Actually, that brings up a really important thing that I have to share, which is that we can ask for whatever we need. It doesn't have to be some exalted spiritual la-di-da. It can be as simple as a house cleaner, or in my case, it was a caretaker, for my home while I was in Brazil. It can be very mundane. We can ask for our mundane needs also. Yeah, well done, Malia. Well, I hope you find the perfect caretaker. I can imagine them coming your way.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, kiddos. Well, let's see. Is there anyone else that really has something that they need to communicate or share? No. All right. So
Yeah.
what I'd like to, yes? Someone? Okay. Who do we have here?
Eva.
Hi.
Eva.
Hi, I'm Eva. I
Hi,
haven't
Eva.
seen you for a long time. So happy to see you again today. I'm a
Yeah.
teacher on Maui. It's been quite a while since I've seen you, but anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. And this year has been so difficult for me in my teaching job. I'm teaching middle schoolers, so I really appreciated all the different questions that different people had about working with other people. And I think that trying to argue with middle schoolers is pretty much like arguing with 21-month-olds or anyone really. But I really appreciated the woman who's doing social work, because, just being able to try to respond and feel all the things. My students are very disadvantaged. A lot of them are very disadvantaged and, have all kinds of things going on in their families, so just, I loved your message about increasing capacity. And I guess I just want to say, what would you suggest for when you feel, because sometimes I have become that person of stone. I've also kind of become the gecko hiding like in the middle of my desk, like I'm hiding, like I'm frozen. I do the freeze thing, like, and then I just try to remember love. I just, in the moment, just try to remember love. But being the object of, the insanity, being the target sometimes of, I'm an English language arts teacher, and so just anything that you could help me just in terms of the insanity, dealing with some of the insanity. And sometimes, it's like I'm hearing myself speak, but it's just not getting through. Like I just can't get through. There's this wall of chaos and that is happening, and I just have to surrender. Sometimes I just have to surrender, like this is what's happening. So I'm so glad to see you. Any thoughts you have for me today?
Wow. Well, another person on the front lines there, middle school, and I can only imagine. So the practices that I recommended are very valid for you. But in your particular situation, what you might do is if you feel that there's a wall that you're not getting through, and they're throwing energetic obstacles your way, they're throwing, right, it doesn't feel like you're being hit with energy. So imagine that energy is beautiful flowers, that this is their capacity to gift you. This is all they have to give you, is this wad of energy. They don't have anything else in their capacity. And so you're going to see that since this is all they have to give, these are the flowers that they're laying on your desk for you as the one who's willing to stand there and receive them.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Lots of flowers.
Because that's all they have to give. Whatever they're doing, they have no training at all. They're just totally subject to all of the craziness that's going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's very difficult. They're protecting their humanity because it's constantly being wounded. Every time they open their heart in affection, there's something that comes in there. So they're totally walled up. And you're inviting them to feel your love, but they're totally freaked out and just don't believe it.
Right.
They don't believe it. They've been so many times betrayed. Their love has been betrayed. So trying to trust you is tricky.
Mm.
So you've got to keep the space open. And that's difficult. That's really, and imagine you're not putting up a wall. You're just making a lot of space around yourself. That's all. It's not like you're resisting them. You're not really putting them away. You recognize that they're worthy of your love. You recognize that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. And, it is, I think one of the things that I'm learning to do is to just sometimes just surrender. So I love that image of flowers, just like in the moment, I can't fight this. It's a tidal wave of roses, but, also to reach out to them individually sometimes after the moment. Like there was this one student who he pretended to find a note, but then later on I realized that he had written the note and it said, it was like a note that was stashed in a desk for different people to sign on. And they were like, reasons why Miss Johannes should be fired. She's annoying, she's white, she's howly, So I found this, and in the moment it felt like a wound, like I felt personally attacked. But then later on, I realized that this boy had actually written it. He was like, no, don't read it. Don't read it, And he was kind of horrified. And he was like, I didn't write it, but I realized later that he had. So anyway, but this is a boy whose father took his own life just a few months ago. And so a few days later, I just kind of let the dust settle on our own, because I get to see him like twice a day. He's in my homeroom. and in my advisory and in my English class. So I just told him, I said, you know, I want you to know that I still care about you. And I understand that, you know, there were historical wrongs that were done to your people, to the Hawaiian people. But I want you to understand sometimes people who have lighter skin or are haoles, that we might actually be allies, and I want to be your ally, you know. So he's continued to act out through the years, but I just, you know, through the year, but I just try to keep saying, you know, hey, I believe in you, you know, I see you. So it's all I can do sometimes, you know, whether he takes it or not is up to him. So thank you for your feedback.
Well done. Wow. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So I would like to end this. Oh my goodness, I've gone way over the time. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with me. I'd like to end this with 2 dances. So Miri, if you can get ready to put the dance of the 4 powers, and then follow it with the 4 immeasurables. So the dance of the 4 powers is using the 6-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva. And I will give more extensive teachings. I often teach this because the power, when you have a situation where you feel like you could have done better, right? There's cross your hands over your heart, recognize and regret if you caused any harm. And then invoke your sources of refuge, the awakened ones, Tara, the teachings, and your community. And renew your commitment to manifest enlightened mind, that you want your behavior to reflect that. You are engaging in whatever activity you can in order to purify whatever karma you've created. So acts of generosity are the movements that we're going to do. And then you imagine that we're all holding hands in a circle. So we're going to reach out to each other. We're going to hold hands with each other. And we're going to imagine that we resolve that every breath, every step, every moment, we're going to do our best. And we are not going to allow anybody to demand anything more from us than that. So we're going to do that practice. And just, I'll do it sitting here so you can follow me. Okay, and you can do it rocking back and forth. You can do it if you know the dance, you can walk in a circle, but we're just going to do it together because all of these impressions that we received, we want to purify them with Vajrasattva. And then we're going to conclude with the 4 immeasurables. Again, the movement's very simple. We wish everybody well. We are imagining that we're holding hands, that we're resting in equanimity. That's the equanimity. Yeah. We are clearing ourselves of all suffering. Just be playful with these, but let the music wash over you and feel yourself to be opening into this wondrous world. So if you can't dance or move, just, but I would love everybody. I'm going to turn on my gallery view. Please open your cameras now so we can see you and send the light and the love to each other. So we start with our hands crossed at our heart as Miri starts the music. And we think, whatever we've done, we regret and remember. Go ahead, Miri.
Om Vajrasattva Hum, 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 Om Vajrasattva Hum. Sattva Om Vajra 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 Sattva Vajra Sattva Om 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 Vajra Sattva.
We come together to bring heaven to earth. Opening our hearts, we rest in the wisdom of interconnectedness. We are all together in this wonderful adventure of life. We offer each being in this wide and wonderful world love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May this wish increase more and more until it bathes the whole world.
May all beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May they be free. small suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far.
Yum, 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 yum. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being present today, for inviting me to share what's so important and resonant within my heart. I'm so grateful for all of you. It's so nice to see all of you, looking at all of the different names and faces and people that I haven't seen for a while. And oh my God, so I hope I get to see some of you as I travel back across the States. We're hoping that's all going to work out. And in the meantime, I will continue with these teachings. I just barely scratched the surface, but I think we made a lot of progress. Always, you are free to send me emails, if you have questions or you want to talk about whatever's going on. I'm perfectly available to all of you. I want to say special thank you to Miri Dakini. I don't see her anywhere here, but I know she is. Oh, there you are. Hi, Miri. Oh, she's such a wonderful, it's so helpful, incredible. And Mei Chen, thank you. I'm so happy that you popped online today. We weren't sure. So really, you're so incredibly helpful, you ladies. It's really wonderful. And then also the back room translators, Maya. I don't know if Maya's still around, but yes, Yahoo. And of course, Xenia, when she's translating, and Gisele, I see you're all here. It's fantastic to see you. It's been really a wonderful experience to be back in Brazil. Our camp is coming on. I'm just praying that they drop the necessity for vaccine so that you can come and dance with us. But if not, up in Woodstock and over in Portland, we'll be around. So hopefully get to see you all soon. So let's imagine now for a moment all of the joys, all of the intense sharing. Thank you, those of you who shared your life situations. It's so helpful for all of us to remember, what a challenge, what a challenge. So in our hands, we take all of our inspiration and joy. We offer it, it transforms it into wisdom nectar, and we pour it upon the world, giving everybody exactly what they need. Om 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 Till the next time. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you, Prema.
Mahalo.